Jacksonville, the community. Duval.
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 Careful. You know what? All those Duvals were good. It doesn't matter because they won last night. What a game. Monday night in Jacksonville. Clearly, we kicked it off with all of our great
We've heard more Duvals in the last 6 months because of Liam Cohen's not great Duval and obviously being 4-1.
You know what? It didn't matter. He wasn't great at the Duval. He's a pretty great coach. Dan, Mina, Marcus Spears is here as well. Tons of reaction to that game coming. We're going to get to it. There's the wave. That means we can officially start. We have breaking news. The Bengals are trading for Joe Flacco. Cincinnati gives up a 5th-round pick and gets a 6th-rounder and the quarterback for the Browns. Flacco is Cincinnati's quarterback until Joe Burrow can return from this turf toe injury. I'll be completely honest here. When this happened, we had some interesting reactions texting each other. Dan, what do you think of this move? To start with you.
Why? Why, if you're the Bengals, with that offensive line, this offensive line has been bad for years. It still is bad. It's been mitigated by Joe Burrow. Joe Flacco is not going to be the person to overshadow that. And then the other thought was, do they in Cincinnati think that Joe's coming back? Like, is this the move that signifies, no, they have belief that Joe is going to come back maybe mid to late November, and they're just trying to keep themselves in the race so when he comes back, if they can get on that final 4 or 5 game run and get into the playoffs. But this one's odd to me.
Even if that is the goal, this isn't the right quarterback to get there. I understand that there's a dearth of options, but to your point, Joe Flacco was terrible under pressure. In fact, dead last in the NFL in QBR under pressure. QBR of 3. The Bengals' offensive line is even worse than Cleveland's, and they don't have a run game. Cleveland actually has a run game. So I understand that Jake Browning hasn't been good, but I failed to see the upgrade here. I know people are going to say, well, who else? But at least try to capture some upside, potentially. I just don't see the upside in this move.
Yeah, I agree. The perplexing thing for me was that Jake Browning has been here. Like, are you going to get better with Joe Flacco? And then you said it, and we've been talking about it, how bad this Cincinnati Bengals offensive line has been. But I contend always, any offensive line lining up in shotgun 60 times a game is probably going to look bad in 2025's NFL. Especially with Joe Flacco with an immobile quarterback. Like, this the guy you go to based on all of the problems that you've seen. I don't know if it's an understanding. I don't know if you think you can get the ball out quicker. I don't know what this move was about. But the first thing I thought about was, okay, let's bring in a statue to stand behind the offensive line that gets the quarterbacks hit and then get better.
Yeah. I don't know why. I don't know why it's not a younger, more athletic option. Now, maybe they did in their defense. Maybe they made some calls for a younger player that's maybe a little bit more athletic to try to mitigate it. But this move doesn't feel like it's a upgrade remotely from Jake Browning. I know Jake Browning's turned the football over, but at least he's way more mobile.
Yeah, I would have. I mean, look, man, mobility, it's better, but I would have. This should have been Jameis Winston.
Yeah.
Or even Russell Wilson. I just don't get the Flacco part of it. Like, I don't get it.
Well, okay, from the Brown side of things.
We down on this one, y'all.
After trading Joe Flacco, we're perplexed to the Bengals. Dylan Gabriel, Shedeur Sanders are the 2 remaining quarterbacks on the Browns roster. Dylan Gabriel showed some promise even in a loss. Bailey Zappi is on Cleveland's practice squad. That's that. Let's move on.
But you mentioned the breaking news. Adam Schefter reporting. Bengals are acquiring quarterback Joe Flacco from the Browns, along with a 6th-round pick for a 5th-rounder. The 40-year-old had been benched in favor of Dylan Gabriel since Joe Burrow went down, since he's gone 0-3 under Jake Browning. Let's bring in our Dan Graziano and Jeff Saturday. Dan, I'll start with you. What more can you add to this news from just about a half hour ago?
Yeah, Matt, the Bengals really thought that when Joe Burrow got hurt that Jake Browning would play better than he has so far. So at this point, they were out the last couple of days looking for other options. Joe Flacco is the one they end up with. Now, it's important to note, I don't think the Bengals expect Joe Flacco to come in and be able to just start for them right away. They have a game this Sunday against the Packers and a game a few days later, next Thursday, against the Steelers. So I would say Week 8 would be the soonest you would see Joe Flacco, if at all. In terms of who starts this week, Browning obviously remains a possibility. They have Brett Rippon on the roster as well, and head coach Zach Taylor said yesterday they would consider all options. I doubt that Flacco is one immediately, but he's certainly one down the road if they continue to struggle and are looking for a veteran solution at the quarterback position, while they hold out at least a little bit of hope that Joe Burrow can come back by the end of the year.
And you really think about it, Flacco's played on enough teams, enough years. He probably knows every offense in the NFL, and he already beat the Packers a couple of weeks ago when he was at the Browns, so there's familiarity there. Saturday, what does this trade mean for Cincinnati now moving forward?
Honestly, I don't know what this is a shot in the dark to me. This is not an offense that protects their quarterback. Joe Flacco isn't fleet of foot. I mean, Joe Burrow was back there getting hit. And I understand Browning's not playing well. I'm not sure what you think you upgrade other than, okay, get the ball out on time, use Higgins, put it in Chase's hands, that kind of thing. But I look at this thing and I don't know. It's a kind of a head scratcher to me. Joe Flacco hasn't lit it up in Cleveland. And so maybe Zach Taylor's like, hey, we're going to bring a veteran in, help him, from the mental side of the game. Maybe he can come help us, to Dan's point, in a couple weeks. But they got to learn how to protect. And the bottom line is, you have a quarterback who's not mobile, who's going to stand in one place. You better make sure protection's front and center in this offense to help him get the ball off.
Yeah, not once has Joe Flacco in his entirety of his career been compared to Vince Young. So that's a great point. He's not an agile guy in an offensive line that certainly struggled. So that's the Bengals' perspective from this. Graziano, back to the Browns. What does this now mean from a quarterback room that had about 7 guys in training camp, and now they're down to just a couple?
The veterans they had in training camp, Joe Flacco and Kenny Pickett, have both been traded, and that leaves the rookies. Dillon Gabriel, who got his first start last week, and of course Shedeur Sanders. Now, when they switched to Gabriel last week, Kevin Stefanski, their head coach, said Flacco would still be the number 2, the backup, and Shedeur Sanders was the emergency third quarterback this past week. A move like this, assuming they don't bring in some other veteran, tells you that they're comfortable, at least for the time being, with Shedeur Sanders in that number 2 spot, which means if something were to happen to Dillon Gabriel, he would have to go into the game. I still expect, Matt, that the Browns will want to get a look at both of these rookies before the end of the season just to see what they have. But Gabriel is in there right now, did all right the other day, and is likely to continue to get starts for the time being. Eventually, we might see Shedeur Sanders for a team that has 2 first-round picks next year and knows it has to address this situation for the long term.
Yeah, I agree with Graz here. I think when you think about Shedeur Sanders, this was probably the plan even when they made the move to Gabriel, is why would you have Flacco be the backup long term? I mean, at some point you go, no, we're going to move on from it. So, I think this was probably going to happen either way. And to Graz's point, I also think if Gabriel doesn't continue to progress or get to where he wants, you will give Sanders a shot to see what he can do on Sundays. And so I think this is pretty typical when you move away from the vet. You're kind of moving into what you consider draft season as the season progresses. If you're not winning, and let's be honest, the Gabriel, if they have a decent drive and stop them, they had an opportunity to win. That's what, with a defense like Cleveland, you have that. So I think this is probably the way it was suited. I was just shocked that they got him traded as quickly as they did.
Yeah, kind of a head turner on draft night when they took both of these rookie quarterbacks. You'd think they'd battle it out in the preseason. Now it could happen into the season, even though Gabriel looked pretty sharp for his part in his first ever career start. Breaking news out of the NFL. Graz and